This video is brought to you by volunteeraudio.com, your #1 source for all things Harley Davidson audio. From individual radios, speakers, and amps to complete plug-and-play amp and speaker systems, we've got you covered. And once you've ordered your package from Volunteer Audio, it includes lifetime tech support. And we have the very best step-by-step installation video so you can install it yourself and save money. So I'm going to give you kind of the idea of what we're going to do with all this harnessing. Because you're looking here and you're going, there is so much harnessing, what am I going to do with it? So we're going to take these two connectors that used to be on top of our headlight, along with the factory radio plug, and we're going to feed them into this large cavity over here to the left of our headlight when we're standing here in front. And there's plenty of room in there, and we're going to secure that up. We're going to take the rest of the wiring. So that's going to be our speaker connectors, our RCAs that came out of the amp. All of this wiring that's not part of that is going to be fed into this cavity on this side and secured. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we're going to do. Robbie's going to get over here and get that done for us and start zip tying it as he goes, making sure it's very, very clean. One thing I do want to point out, we need to pull our antenna back up here now. That goes to our power locks. We'll go ahead and get it up here. And say this is only going to be on your bike if you have those power lids or power tour pack locks that was, basically keyless entry for your Harley. Here's our antenna. We're just going to make sure that it stays up here kind of high. And we're going to take that clip that came with it and we're going to clip it back onto this bracket next to the radio. All right, so it just goes up in there. Again, so what Robbie's done is he's actually unplugged this connector that goes here. He's going to feed that wiring up in that hole, up and over that connector, so that when we plug this back in, it's going to keep all of that in place. Now, on this particular bike, we're going to have to also keep in mind that we have these side vents that open and close. We don't want to put this harnessing where it's going to keep that from functioning. Plug our speaker wires back in. And we're going to bring this under, plug it back in, which is going to actually keep all that wiring up in that area. So really no zip ties are really needed for that part. Probably just going to go ahead and zip tie some of this over here to the side where he's going with it anyways. Same thing. He's going to unplug the big electrical connector on that side. He's going to unplug our speaker connector on that side. It's going to allow him to feed all this wiring up in that other cavity. Headlock connector out of your way there. Some things may have to get unplugged and replugged back in, just as you see that it makes more sense to route it a different way. That's what Robbie's doing now with our amp turn-on wire. So he's going to put our second radio connector up into that same hole, getting all these connectors up in there. Make sure any factory plugs you unplug, you plug back in. All right, it's looking a lot cleaner now. Here's a zip tie. Zip tie. So as we pull these, something here. This is the part that might be just a little time consuming for you, but take your time, route the harnessing where it needs to go, making sure it's clean, so in the future, any other work you do, you're not creating yourself more work or making it harder on the tech at the dealership or whoever may be working on it. All right. So we're going to end up with this box. This is our Maestro module. We're going to try to take it and we're going to bring it down under here. Actually, I may have to undo your USB because you just tied it there. Just gotta get it there. Unplug our USB, push it down on that connector. All right, so I'll leave it under here for now. We'll get our headlight in, then it'll set right between the headlight, right up here in this area. We'll get our headlight in place first. All right, so we're going to plug our headlight in, put it back in place. We've got our CB antenna here. Let's get it tucked up here out of the way. A lot more. All right, so we've got our headlight back in position. Robbie's going to start our screws. All right, so back to our Maestro module. Now you'll see we have quite a bit of room right in here for our Maestro module to sit, as well as our amp turn-on wire to go in here. So lots of room here. Everything's back where it really should be. And at this point, we're going to actually power the bike up. We're going to do a polarity test on the system. We're going to make sure all of our speakers are correct, and then we're going to go back together with our fairing. So we're going to move on to that part now. So this is always one of our favorite parts of the install, going back together with the fairing, because that means we're done. That means everything has been tested, everything is working like it should, and we're simply going to slide this back up here. I'm going to make sure that our little tabs on the side go where they're supposed to. Everything's pushed back in place. We're going to go ahead and start by putting our screws in on both sides of our speakers. That's the last ones we took out, and the first ones we're going to put in. All right, while you're here, go ahead and plug in your upper marker lights in the fairing. We don't want to forget that. So both of those are now plugged in. Now we're going to put our lower T25s in on our inner fairing. Yep, so now Robbie's going to put the 3/16 Allens back in on our side marker lights, securing those in place. All right, so we're going to put this upper vent portion back in place. You'll notice these little rubber pieces are outside of this black part. That's where they should be, but sometimes you'll take one of these apart. Somebody previously has pried it apart, and these are underneath, and nothing fits exactly right. So make sure you get those pulled back to the correct side of this piece of plastic, and then all of these little alignment tabs are lined up, and everything's all the way in. This is very, very easy to install. We're simply just going to slide it up where it lips underneath our inner fairing, and then push down, and it's going to clip to the outer. Now Robbie's going to go ahead and start each one of our outer bolts. This goes into a brass insert, so make sure you get these started straight. You do not want to cross thread them. If you do that, you're going to have a hard time getting it fixed. All right, so on this windshield, it's Clockworks windshield, all of our hardware is slotted, so we can take this inner out without having to take the bolts all the way out. Some of your really tall windshields are not going to be slotted, and in that case, you'll have to fully pull that hardware out to get it off. You're going to make sure this is good and tight without cracking the windshield. We do not want to have this windshield work its way out and get, come flying past us going down the road. All right, so Robbie's going to tighten the last two. We're just about done. We've got to get our grills done. I'm going to show you how to transfer the hardware over from our factory grills to our new grills, and then we'll be finished. All right, so now we're going to put our grills back on, but our new grills, as with most, do not come with hardware. We're going to take that from the factory grills. Take you a little straight screwdriver, just come up underneath here and release these clips. We're going to take both of these off because we're going to reuse both of them. Once you get your clips off, we're going to take this rubber gasket off. This is important because this makes everything fit correctly, that we reinstall this rubber. I'll slide it back on, hold it around, dropping these where they go. lot of times once you've pulled this rubber off, the rubber is a little loose here at the bottom. Now, if you had new gaskets bought from Harley, they would fit a little tighter, but over time this rubber has just kind of grown and stretched. But it's all right. We're just going to push it in where it goes. It doesn't hinder us from reinstalling, and you don't see that when you're done. All right, so we're going to take both of our clips, clip them on. Let's go over to the bike, and I'll show you how to put it back on. You'll notice we have this little tab here that's going to slide in under our fairing. And we're going to rotate it down. We're just going to snap it in both of those snaps. Now, I've had a couple of people say that our grills were loose. Those people did not transfer the rubber or these clips. Once you do that, it fits really well, just like factory. I'm going to do that to the other one and get it on. We'll be back in just a second. We'll let you hear just how awesome it sounds now.